Hi, everyone. Merry Christmas to you. It is such a wonderful season to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And we're very grateful to be with you virtually. And we miss you all, and we wish you all the best. And we've been asked to give a couple meanings, first of all, to Christmas itself. And what it means to us. And so I was going to ask Roz, what does it mean to you?
Christmas is a very sacred time to me now. It didn't always used to be, but it is now. And the first verse that came to mind when John asked me about this was John 10:10, when Jesus said, "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." That is what Christmas means to me. It means true life in knowing Him.
What a great response to knowing Jesus Christ and how important it is to us as individuals to have a personal relationship, something that works in your heart each and every day. And having gone through the book of Luke recently, it has really become personal because of the ministry of Jesus Christ to us. And we think of so many different stories, but one comes to mind that we read this morning. And that was the story of Mary and Martha. And as you know, Martha was scurrying around wanting to do all the work, but Mary was sitting at the feet of Jesus. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind is, do I sit at the feet of Jesus each morning in order to bring joy to my day and to not only wonder what is the right thing to do today, but to know exactly what the right thing is to do. So a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and we celebrate his life this season and how he gives life to us each and every day. Secondly, with the spirit of Christmas is how we came to know Christ in the first place, and what a long and winding road it was. Both of us at 30 years old, probably in a place where, if the statistics don't lie, people at 30 years old don't come to know Christ very often. But special occurrences in our lives, more along the lines of tragedy. Having a successful career is one thing, but letting it go to your head is another. And it truly was going to my head. It was all about me and our calendar being hockey professionals, of that taking precedence over anything in our lives. And we started to drift apart, sadly to say. And then we had some things happen in our lives. First of all, my oldest brother, who was my hero, took his own life. He was 36 years old, and I had questions about the meaning of life after that. And it was very fortunate. We were very fortunate that we had people come into our lives at that time. And we had a chapel and a chaplain down in Florida. And a chaplain kept on asking me a question, which I think is a very current question. Where's Jesus in your life? Every time we met, he asked that question. And I think it's a very important, basic question to us all. It's, where is Jesus in Christmas? Where is Jesus today? Is he alive? And as Christians, we know that he's alive. But at that time, we doubted whether he was alive and living and in our family. And I think that, as I recall some of the story here, it comes to pivotal times, tragedies in your life that kind of throw you off track. And we were kind of both surprised by my brother and the other things in our lives, like our oldest boy, Ian, and moving down to Florida, and some of those things that were coming in our life.
Yeah. So the verse, have life to the full. From the world standards, we had life to the full. We had a marriage, we had kids, we had plenty of money and fame and success, all the worldly standards for living life to the full. But I was far from living life to the full. I was absolutely on empty, and even worse than that, it felt worse than that, in living in the negative. And in that pit where life, what it presented, whether it was marriage or raising a family or, watching your husband on stage all the time, that was a pit for me because it was not satisfying. It was not what I thought it would be. Add to that the guilt of years before that I carried around, and I found myself in a really bad place, health-wise, mentally-wise, and then spiritually dead. So we found ourselves in the same place at the same time, and needy, very, very needy, and God was there to meet us.
So the search began, and fortunately, down in Florida, at the time, when this was 1993, we had a Christian coach in Roger Nielsen, and he wanted to start something called a chapel. And I didn't know anything about it, but I went because my soul was lost in searching for something bigger. And with that, Roz and I both entered in what was known as counseling, which was kind of a dangerous place for me. And I didn't want to be counseled, and reluctantly went to a lot of these sessions, trying to figure out, like, is this for me, is this for Roz, or is this for both of us? And in those sessions, along with the chapel time, one question that came from a doctor that was seeing my brother, and when I called him, he said this one thing: if you really want to help yourself. And that was a key phrase for me: if you really want to help yourself. And I had that question: do I really want to help myself? Do I want to commit and be all that I can be, but not just for me, but for Roz, for our family, for Christ? And where we were with that was really a journey. And for me, it started in chapels, and a fellow by the name of Steve, who was the chaplain, led me. He's still in our life today, and he's a great man. And I'm very grateful for his counsel, because during that counsel, I started to see Roz change, because one day she came to me and said, I think we need to go to church.
And I had been going to church. I thankfully took my empty heart to church, and it was so hungry and open and willing to hear. And I did hear. I heard all about the love of God. For about a year, I contemplated it and had to determine, was it real, and was it possible? I really didn't think that I was a candidate for God's love, but I was convinced. I was actually convinced to the point where I accepted Christ all alone during a church service one day. And this is where the story gets really fun.
Well, for me, it didn't happen in a church service. Had a really special meeting place with our chaplain. It was a place of spiritual greatness known as the IHOP, the International House of Pancakes, where Steve and I used to meet, and he'd ask me that question all the time: where's Jesus in your life? And this last time I got a little indignant, and I said, I don't see Jesus in the IHOP, and I don't see him, in my family. I can hug and hold my family. I don't see Jesus anywhere. Do you? And he said, well, John, if you really want to help yourself. And there was that catchphrase. And I thought in that moment, what's next? And he said, Jesus doesn't want to be in this hierarchy in your life. He just wants to share your family's love. And share was something I could do. And I could feel at that time the well that was built up inside of me break down, and, tears came to my eyes. And he asked me to reach out a hand, and two guys holding hands in an IHOP. Not a great thing, but I reluctantly did it, and we prayed a prayer. And I looked up, and there was a waitress there with a jug of coffee saying, can I pray this prayer too? So I thought it had to be real, but I had to go home and tell Roz, and what all those thoughts of what is she going to think of me, and what are my teammates and the ownership, everybody going to think of me? Am I going to be one of those guys? So went home, and we kind of sat on the side of the bed one day, and I said to her, I have something to tell you. And she says, I have something to tell you too. And we kind of looked at each other, and I said, you go first. And she said, I accepted the Lord Jesus today. And I looked at her, and she was kind of wincing. And I said, well, that's crazy, because I did the very same thing today. And today, that meaning carries through with the living birth of Jesus Christ. And I'm absolutely convinced that the Spirit lives in both of us today, and it has for a long, long time now. And we're both grateful to the people in our lives that continue to pour in what HMI does for us and has done, what the chapels have meant to young athletes. And I see that continuing to work. The Spirit is alive. It's alive in this Christmas season, and it's a joy.
Yeah, and Christ continues to bring my heart to life too. It needs that every day. The love that I was searching for, He supplied. And as a result, I'm able to love people. I was not capable of loving people well before, and He has been teaching me and continues to teach me, and make my heart a welcome place for both Him and for others, and for John, for our children, for our strangers. It's life to the full to be able to welcome people into your heart and have space for them.
One last thing I'd like to share, and we'd like to share, is a verse. And one comes to my mind every time I'm given an opportunity to share a testimony. I use this verse, and it's a special verse to us all who believe, and that is, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but forfeit his soul? We love you. Merry Christmas. Take care.